Long before the jingle of coins filled a purse, the people of the Danish lands had their own ways of understanding wealth. Life was a direct exchange. A farmer with a good harvest of barley might trade his surplus for a well-made axe from the village blacksmith. A fisherman with a net full of herring could swap his catch for warm woolen cloth woven by a neighbor. This was a world of barter, a system built on need, trust, and the tangible value of everyday things. There was no need for a middleman, no abstract concept of money. Your wealth was what you could hold, what you could use, and what you could persuade others was worth their own hard work. It was a personal and immediate economy, where every transaction was a negotiation. This system, however, had its limits. What if the blacksmith didn't need any more barley? The farmer would have to find someone else to trade with, creating a complicated chain of exchanges. To solve this, people began to use certain objects as agreed upon markers of value. These were not coins, not yet. They were items everyone desired, things that held not just practical use, but also a sense of prestige and power. Beautifully crafted jewelry, such as intricate arm rings and twisted neck rings made of gold and silver, became a kind of currency. These were not just ornaments, they were portable wealth, a way to show off your status, and a store of value that was easier to carry than, say, a dozen chickens. The value of these items was tied to their material and their craftsmanship. A heavy silver armlet was worth more than a lighter one. A piece with detailed patterns was more prized than a simple band. People wore their bank accounts on their bodies. A powerful chieftain might be adorned with multiple rings on his arms, each one representing a successful road, a profitable trade, or a gift from a loyal follower. These objects were deeply personal. They told a story of the owner's life, their alliances, and their standing in the community. Giving such a ring was a profound gesture, creating a bond between the giver and the receiver. It was a physical manifestation of loyalty and obligation. So, in this pre-coinage era, the concept of money was woven into the very fabric of society and personal identity. Wealth wasn't just about what you could buy, it was about who you were. The gleam of a gold neck ring around a warrior's throat spoke volumes about his prowess and success. The weight of a silver bracelet on a woman's arm signified her family's standing. This was a world where value was seen, felt, and worn. It was a tangible and visible economy, setting the stage for the next great revolution in how the people of Denmark would think about and handle their riches. The arrival of foreign silver and the idea of the coin itself. The mighty Roman Empire, with its legions and vast cities, seemed a world away from the misty shores of Denmark. Yet, its influence traveled far beyond its fortified borders. Long before the Viking Age began, Roman goods found their way north along ancient trade routes. Merchants and adventurers carried glass beads, fine pottery, and bronze statues into the lands of the Germanic tribes. But most importantly, they brought silver. Roman silver coins, known as denarii, began to appear in Scandinavia. These were not used as currency in the way a Roman citizen would understand it. The local people had no use for the emperor's face or the coin's stated value. For the tribes of Denmark, these silver discs were something else entirely. They were exotic, a source of precious metal from a distant and powerful world. The silver itself was what mattered. The coins were often melted down and reforged into local styles of jewelry, like brooches and pendants. Sometimes they were simply holed and strung onto necklaces, worn as symbols of status and connection to the wider world. Finding a Roman coin was like finding a rare and beautiful shell on the beach. It was a treasure, valued for its material and its mystery. Each coin was a tiny piece of a far-off empire, a whisper of a different way of life. The trickle of Roman silver had a profound effect. It introduced a standardized source of a valuable metal. Before, silver was scarce, found only in small, scattered deposits, or traded in from afar. The arrival of Roman denarii, even in small numbers, increased the overall supply of silver in the region. This slowly began to shift the economy. While barter and the exchange of jewelry remained dominant, the presence of these uniform pieces of silver planted an idea. It showed that wealth could be represented by small, easily transportable objects of a consistent quality and weight. The concept of a coin, a piece of metal with an implied value, had taken its first tentative root in the Danish soil. This early contact with Roman silver was a crucial learning experience. It taught the northern peoples how to work with the metal and appreciate its qualities. It also connected them, however indirectly, to the grand economies of the south. The hoards of Roman coins found by archaeologists in Denmark tell a story of this long-distance relationship. They were buried for safekeeping, perhaps as offerings to the gods or as a personal treasury. They represent the accumulated wealth of individuals and communities, a testament to their ability to trade and acquire precious goods from beyond their immediate horizon. This foundation of silver would become incredibly important when a new wave of precious metal began to flow from another direction entirely. As the memory of Rome faded, a new power rose in the east. The Islamic caliphates, stretching from Spain to Central Asia, created a vast and wealthy civilization. And just as the Romans had done, they minted coins. Their silver coins, called dirhams, were of a remarkable purity and were produced in enormous quantities. During the early Viking Age, starting around the 8th century, Scandinavian traders, adventurers, and warriors began to forge new routes eastward. They sailed down the great rivers of what is now Russia and Ukraine, reaching the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. There, they encountered the incredible wealth of the Islamic world. These Vikings were not just raiders, they were savvy merchants. They traded furs, amber, timber, and slaves for the goods of the East. And the one thing they desired above all else was silver. The Islamic dirham became the ultimate prize. Unlike the earlier Roman coins, which had trickled in, dirhams flooded into Scandinavia by the thousands, and then by the hundreds of thousands. Huge hoards of these coins have been discovered all across Denmark and the rest of the Viking world. They represent a massive transfer of wealth that would fundamentally transform the northern economy. The Vikings had tapped into one of the world's richest economies and were bringing its silver home. The dirhams were visually striking. They bore no images of rulers, which was forbidden in Islamic tradition. Instead, they were covered in elegant Arabic script, known as kufic. These inscriptions declared faith in Allah and named the ruler and the mint where the coin was minted. To the Vikings, the script was just a beautiful and exotic pattern. What they cared about was the consistent high quality of the silver. A dirham from Baghdad was just as good as one from Samarkand. This reliability made them an ideal medium for large-scale trade. A trader could now calculate the price of a shipload of furs in terms of a specific number of dirhams, creating a more sophisticated and predictable market. This influx of silver had a revolutionary impact. It injected a huge amount of liquidity into the Viking economy. Wealth was no longer confined to the heavy armor rings of the elite. Now, even a moderately successful raider or trader could accumulate a small bag of silver coins. This new wealth fueled the Viking expansion, paying for the construction of longships, the gathering of crews, and the financing of ever more ambitious voyages. The dirham became the international currency of the Viking Age, It connected the fjords of Denmark to the bustling markets of the Silk Road, turning Scandinavian seafarers into key players in a truly global network of trade and exchange. The flood of Islamic dirhams brought a new level of precision to trade, but it also created a practical problem. A single silver dirham was a valuable item, worth perhaps a day's wages or more. It was fine for buying a sword or a boat, but what about smaller purchases? How would you buy a loaf of bread or a clay pot when your smallest unit of money was so valuable? The Vikings, ever practical, came up with a simple and brutal solution. They took their precious silver items, be they coins, bracelets, or ingots, and they chopped them into pieces. This practice gave us the term hacksilver or hacksilver. This was a weight-based economy in its rawest form. A merchant would have a small set of portable scales. When a price was agreed upon, say for a new knife, the buyer would pull out a piece of silver. It might be a fragment of a dirham, a chunk of a silver arm ring, or a sliver from an ingot. The pieces would be placed on the scales until the correct weight was reached. It didn't matter what the original object was. All that mattered was the purity and weight of the silver. A piece of a beautiful brooch was worth exactly the same as a rough-cut piece from a plain bar of silver if they weighed the same. It was a crude but highly effective system for making transactions of all sizes possible. Hacksilver hoards, found by archaeologists, are like a snapshot of this unique economy. They contain a chaotic mix of objects. Whole coins from distant lands sit alongside tiny, jagged fragments of those same coins. Bits of finely decorated jewelry are jumbled together with roughly cast silver ingots. It shows that for the Vikings, silver was silver. Its form was secondary to its substance. This practice demonstrates their unsentimental and pragmatic approach to wealth. A beautiful armlet, perhaps a gift from a chieftain, would be unceremoniously chopped up to pay for supplies if the need arose. The value was in the metal, not the artistry, once it entered the world of commerce. This system, however, was still inefficient. It required scales for every transaction, and there was always the risk of being cheated with impure silver. It also meant that the beautifully crafted coins from the Islamic world were being destroyed, their original purpose and artistry lost. As trade grew more complex and settlements became larger and more permanent, the need for a more standardized, reliable form of currency became increasingly apparent. The stage was set for a local ruler to take the next logical step, not just to use foreign coins, but to create their own. The age of hacksilver was a necessary bridge, but its limitations paved the way for the birth of Denmark's very own coinage. In the early 9th century, at the southern edge of the Danish peninsula, the bustling trading town of Hedeby stood as a gateway between Scandinavia and continental Europe. It was a vibrant, chaotic hub where Norse traders met merchants from Francia, Saxony, and the Slavic lands. Furs and amber from the north were exchanged for wine, pottery, and weapons from the south. It was here, amidst this melting pot of cultures and commerce, that the first Danish coins were minted. This was a truly monumental step. It marked the moment a Danish ruler decided not just to use silver, but to actually control its form and guarantee its value. These earliest coins were not really grand statements of royal power. They were modest and honestly heavily influenced by the coinage of the powerful Carolingian Empire to the south. The Frankish coins of Charlemagne, with their simple Christian crosses and basic designs, were already familiar to the traders in Hedeby. The first Danish mint masters basically copied these designs, creating what are known as wooden monster sciatas. One side of the coin often featured a stylized, almost cartoonish face, with wild hair, which scholars believe may represent the Norse god Odin or Woden. The other side showed a strange, deer-like creature, its legs tangled in serpent-like patterns. These designs were a fascinating blend of Norse mythology and Christian European influence. The minting process was, well, pretty simple. A blank disc of silver, called a plancher, was placed between two engraved dies. One die was fixed in an anvil, and the other was held on top. A sharp strike with a hammer would then impress the designs onto both sides of the silver disc. The quality could vary greatly. Some coins were well struck and clear, while others were off-center or faint. But each one represented a move away from the chaos of Hacksilver. A merchant could now accept a Hedeby coin without needing to bring out his scales, trusting that it contained a recognized amount of silver, guaranteed by the authority who minted it. The significance of these first coins really cannot be overstated. They were more than just a convenient tool for trade. They were a declaration of sovereignty and economic power. The ruler who controlled the mint in Hedeby was demonstrating a new level of authority. They were saying, "This is our silver, our town, our trade." These humble shatas were the first seeds of a national currency. They announced Denmark's arrival as an organized economic and political force, ready to engage with its powerful European neighbors on its own terms. The dawn of coinage in Hedeby was, without a doubt, the dawn of a new era for Denmark itself. By the 10th century, the political landscape of Denmark was changing. The era of petty chieftains and localized power was giving way to the idea of a unified kingdom. A key figure in this transition was Gorm the Old, who ruled from the new royal center of Jelling. While Gorm is famously remembered for his runestones, his reign also saw important, though subtle, developments in the realm of coinage. The minting that began in Hedeby continued, but it started to reflect the growing power of a central royal authority. The coins were still based on foreign models, but they were becoming more distinctly Danish. During this period, the coins produced were still primarily skiatas and early forms of the penning. The designs remained a mix of influences. You could still see traces of the Carolingian cross, a symbol of the powerful Christian empire to the south. However, Norse artistic styles, with their love of intertwined animals and complex patterns, became more prominent. It was as if the Danish mint masters were growing more confident, adapting foreign ideas to fit their own cultural identity. This was not yet a fully standardized national currency, as minting was likely still concentrated in major trading hubs like Hedeby and perhaps Ribe. The coins from Gorm's time symbolize a kingdom in formation. They were a tool for facilitating the trade that was making the Danish elite rich, but they were also a subtle instrument of royal power. By controlling or influencing the means, the king could regulate the quality of the silver and profit from its production. This gave him an economic advantage over rival chieftains. Every coin that circulated through the markets, even if it didn't bear his name or face, was a small reminder of the growing network of commerce that his authority helped to protect and foster. The coins were part of the infrastructure of a nascent state. Gorm the Old laid the groundwork. He consolidated power and established a dynasty that would see Denmark fully emerge as a unified kingdom. His era's coinage reflects this transitional state. It was a step beyond the purely imitative coins of early Hedeby, but had not yet reached the level of sophistication that would come with his son. The silver penning of Gorm's time was a work in progress, much like the Kingdom of Denmark itself. It was functional, increasingly local in flavor, and a vital component of the economic engine that would empower his successor to change the face of Denmark and its money forever. If Gorm the Old laid the foundation for a unified Denmark, it was his son, Harald Bluetooth, who built the house. Harald was a king of grand ambitions. He built massive ring forts, constructed bridges, and, as his famous Jelling Stone proclaims, won for himself all of Denmark and Norway and made the Danes Christian. To manage and symbolize this new, unified and Christian kingdom, he needed a new kind of currency. Under Harald's rule, Danish coinage took a dramatic leap forward. He initiated the minting of the first truly widespread and standardized royal coins, marking a clear break from the past. These new coins, known as cross pennies or korsmønter, were radically different from the earlier Hedeby-seatas. The playful, pagan-influenced designs of monsters and faces were gone. In their place was a simple, bold Christian cross, often depicted on both sides of the coin. This was a powerful political and religious statement. Every coin became a tiny piece of propaganda, circulating the message of the king's new faith throughout his realm. It told everyone who held it that Denmark was now part of Christian Europe, under the rule of a Christian king. The design was clear, uniform, and unambiguous. Harald's reform was not just about design, it was about control. He established mints in key locations, ensuring that his coins were produced to a consistent weight and purity. This was the end of the Wild West of hack silver and the confusing variety of earlier coins. For the first time, Denmark had something approaching a true national currency. A merchant in Jutland could accept a coin minted in Scania with confidence. This standardization was revolutionary. It streamlined trade, simplified tax collection, and strengthened the king's economic grip on his newly united kingdom. It was a sophisticated tool of statecraft, as important as any fortress or longship. The impact of Harald Bluetooth's coinage reform was immense. It projected an image of a modern, organized, and powerful kingdom, both internally and to the outside world. The coins traveled with traders and warriors, announcing Denmark's new identity. Holding a Bluetooth cross penny was holding a piece of the king's authority. It represented his two greatest achievements: the unification of the kingdom and its conversion to Christianity. This single, small silver object embodied the entire political project of its creator. Harald Bluetooth didn't just build a kingdom, he gave it a currency that reflected its new soul. The path forged by Harald Bluetooth set the standard for centuries to come. His successors, like his son Svein Forkbeard and grandson Not the Great, understood the immense power of coinage. As they expanded their domains to create a vast North Sea empire encompassing Denmark, Norway, and England, they used coins as a primary tool of governance. Not the Great, in particular, ran one of the most sophisticated minting operations in Europe. He established numerous mints across his empire, all producing coins of a remarkably high and consistent quality. For the first time, Danish coins began to regularly feature the portrait of the king. This was a significant evolution. The anonymous cross of Harald Bluetooth gave way to coins bearing the king's name and image, often styled after English or German examples. The coin now said, "This is not just the currency of a Christian kingdom. This is the currency of King Canute." The king's profile, often shown wearing a crown or helmet, was a direct and personal assertion of authority. It linked the value of the silver directly to the power and stability of the monarch himself. These coins circulated widely, from the markets of Dublin to the trade routes of the Baltic, carrying the image of the Danish king far and wide. The designs continued to evolve throughout the medieval period. The cross remained a central motif, emphasizing the kingdom's Christian identity, but it was often paired with other symbols of royal power. The king's portrait became more realistic over time, and inscriptions became more detailed, naming not only the king, but also the mint and even the moneyer, responsible for striking the coin. This was a system of accountability, designed to maintain the quality of the currency and prevent fraud. The silver penning was the backbone of the Danish economy for hundreds of years, facilitating everything from the payment of soldiers to the building of cathedrals. This era cemented the relationship between the crown, the cross, and the currency. The king's authority guaranteed the coin's value, and the coin in turn spread the king's authority and faith throughout the land. The simple silver coin, born in the chaotic marketplace of Hedeby, had become a sophisticated symbol of the Danish state. It was an instrument of economic policy, a piece of political propaganda, and a work of art, all rolled into one. The journey from a roughly chopped piece of hack silver to a finely struck royal portrait penny was a mirror of Denmark's own journey from a collection of tribal territories to a powerful and organized medieval kingdom. The silver penny, in its different forms, was the main money in Denmark for hundreds of years. But money is always changing. As Denmark traded more and wanted to be more important in politics, it needed a more complex money system. Over time, new types of coins were made. Bigger silver coins, like the skilling and the mark, were made for larger purchases. People also started to use other metals besides silver for coins. Gold coins, like the ducat, were made for big international trades. This showed that Denmark was part of a bigger European economy. The simple system of just one silver coin was changing into a system with many different metals and types of money. When the krone was introduced in the 1600s, it was another big change. The name, which means crown, showed that the money was linked to the king or queen. Early krone coins were large, impressive silver pieces. They often had a detailed picture of the king at the time. Making the krone was part of a bigger trend in Europe to create larger, more stable money units. During this time, people also tried using paper money for the first time. But these early attempts often made people suspicious and usually failed. People trusted the real value of silver and gold much more than a printed promise from the government. The 1800s brought the biggest change of all. Silver was no longer the main standard for money. For over 1,000 years, the value of a coin was based on the value of the metal it contained. The Scandinavian Monetary Union of 1873, which Denmark joined, changed the region to the gold standard. A few decades later, in the 1900s, even this link to precious metal was broken. Money became fiat money. This means its value is based purely on the trust and confidence people have in the government that issues it. The modern Danish krone, a round piece of aluminum bronze, doesn't have any real metal value. Its worth comes from the shared belief in how stable the Danish economy is. Looking at a modern Danish krone today, it's hard to see the long history it represents. But its story goes all the way back to those first, simple silver coins made in Hedeby. It's a journey from trading goods to chopped up dirhams, from the first attempts to copy Frankish coins to the bold cross of Harald Bluetooth, and from the royal pictures of kings from long ago to the fiat money of today. Each step in this change shows a change in technology, politics, and what money itself